Hey guys, and welcome to this video. I feel like there's a lot of concepts that are part of the Drupal content management system that people overcomplicate and that are overcomplicated in tutorials. An example of that is certainly views relationships, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I feel like one of the reasons why a lot of concepts like that are overcomplicated is because to be able to make practical use of them, they rely on other things, and unless you understand those other things, you won't understand the core concept that's being portrayed in a tutorial. So, and views relationships, which is what we're going to talk about today, is certainly one of those things. So, we're gonna approach this today by giving you the most simple example possible, and then in the next video, what I'm actually going to do is go into some more practical example of where you might actually use a views relationship. Because today's example is a bit lame, but it'll give you the basic idea of what a relationship is, which is what I want you to get out of this tutorial, really. So let's talk about the theory of what a relationship is. If you creating views, so views are lists of content in Drupal, and you say, like in the example we're going to talk about today, I only want to show nodes that are houses. In the example we're going to talk about today, we're creating a estate agency type site, and I only want to show nodes that are houses. So I'm only going to have access to the fields of nodes that are houses because that's what I've limited myself to. I don't want to show any other data. I just want to show houses. But I want to get access to foreign data that's not part of that house node. That's what a relationship's for. So in this case, I want to get access to the number of people the number of children that the user has, because I've said only registered users can add houses, and when a user signs up for an account to add houses, they have to say how many children they have. So we don't want to say on every house how many children live in this house, because we might just as well just ask them on their profile how many children they have living with them, and then use that, and then look for every node, look through a relationship and see, okay, the person who created this node, let's look at their user profile and see how many children they have. So that data is not duplicated, it's just in the user profile, and then we use a views relationship to pull it out of that user profile and show it in the view, even though it's not actually part of the individual nodes. So for a views relationship to work, you really have to have the data that you're the data that you natively have access to. There has to be some field that you can add as a basis for that relationship that is also gonna be able to access the data you want. So, for example, all nodes in Drupal have an author ID, and that author ID that's also part of the profile. So that's going to be able to use to link those two things together and give us access to all the profile information for that relevant node if we know what the user ID is. And we do know what the user ID is because that's created for every node. So that's going to be the go-between, if you like. It's going to look at the user ID for every node and say, okay, what are the profile values for this node? What are the profile values for the user who created this node? And okay, let's add that along with the node. So let's look at our example today and look at what we're doing. So I'm just going to move a bit closer. We've got a view here that shows all our houses, and just got a house name type and asking price. If we look at one of these houses, and we see that as the only fields we've got, so very very simple here, nothing over complex at all. If we go in and edit this house, we can see nowhere have we got a field that says how many children lived in this house. But if we go to the user that created this house, we have that data. So we want to get that data from the user, not the individual content itself. I want to display it along with the content. So we're getting something that we wouldn't natively have access to. So let's look at the view that we've already got. I'm going to go in and edit this view. So we just got a table that shows title, what type of house it is, and the asking price. That's what's given us this table. But we want to show how many children lived in each house. But if we look here, we've only got access to all the information that node knows about. Because we're not creating a user view, we've not got access to any of that user data that the node knows about. But we have got access to who of the content. So that's going to be our go-between, because that user ID can be used to, it's attached to the node, so it knows all the information about the node in question, but it also knows all the information about the user. So that's going to be the basis for our relationship. But if we look at the moment, we've got no category that's the user, so we can't access that profile data. To give us access to that profile data, what we're going to do is add a relationship, and what we're adding here is, okay, what field is going to access the go-between? What field is going to know what field is going to know the information we want, but we also natively have access to it? And as we've discussed, that's the author. And okay, this identifier is just for views. That's essentially gonna show up next to any related field to show the only reason you have access to that field is because of the author relationship. I'll show you that in a minute. And this requires this relationship because every node has an author. Like, that's just something Drupal keeps track of by default. We don't need to do this, but if we were adding optional fields to base a relationship off of, which we will do in the next video, that not all nodes that we're listing might have that field. So this is to say, if we can't find a way to link those two things, if this field that you've specified as the go-between doesn't exist on the node, then do you want to show the node? And if you didn't still want to show the node, then you would click require this relationship. But that's not relevant here because every node knows who created it. And now that we have access to who created the node, it's acted as the go-between and pulled in all the user information that it also knows about. So we can now add number of children just like we wanted to. And this is telling us that the only reason we have the access to that field is because of the author relationship. So that's important, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to get access to that information, as we've previously discussed. And we're gonna change the label because this label makes sense in context of the profile, which is where it originally showed. But number of children sharing a house with doesn't really make sense on in the context of the house listing. So we're going to say So we're just changing it according to the context that we're in. But all this other stuff is just standard default field stuff. So we're going to say add that field. And then you notice it says author, because that's telling us again that that's a product of this relationship. It's not something we natively have access to. If we save that though, we can see it figures out who created this node and looks at the user information and pulls out the user information based on that relationship and displays it here. So if you look at one at random, it says here that this person has 0 children. So if we click on it, click on who created it, and they do indeed have 0 children. So views relationship is just, think of it as a way to get access to foreign data that you wouldn't normally have access to, and what you choose as the relationship is just the go-between, and then that gives you the ability to pull in all the fields that field also knows about. So that's the basis we're coming from here. If we go back into the view, we know, as we've discussed before, that the only reason we have access to this field is because of this author relationship. So just to prove that, I'm going to get rid of this author relationship. So we no longer know all the details about the person who created it. And so that relationship is gone. So we no longer know all that information. So if we update our view, we can see that field goes away because it doesn't have access to that field anymore. So very simple example of views relationships. In the next video, we're going to get into sort of more optional relationships, because like I say, every node has that go-between field, because Drupal automatically knows who created every node. But in the next video, we're going to get into some more optional stuff and some more practical examples. But I hope that was a quick introduction to views relationships. And all you need to know really is that what you're selecting as the basis for the relationship has to be accessible to you natively, but it also has to know about all the information you want. So, and then it will give you access to all the fields that it knows about, but you wouldn't natively have access to. So that's the concept of a relationship. Hope this video has been useful. Sorry it's been very long. Thanks for watching. My website is just down below, tomsrogers.com. There's a whole bunch of interesting content over there. Watch back for series 2. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Leave your comments down below, especially if you need any help. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.